Welcome, welcome, welcome. How's everybody doing? Happy Thursday, beautiful people. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, hello. Welcome back to Unplugged with Pam, Breakfast Club edition, brought to you by Chosen Global. Welcome back to another episode. If you're just joining us for the first time, welcome. If you're joining us once again, welcome home. Welcome to an Unplugged with Pam Breakfast Club edition, brought to you by Chosen Global, where we don't just talk about growth, we walk in it. And I'm so excited to be here with you guys. I know I missed last week. I know so many of you guys sent me messages. I appreciate it. I had to be in New York City, absolutely, for the Jay-Z celebration. Some of you guys have no idea what that means, and that's okay. But I wanted to start today's conversation with something that is absolutely very, very well known. And you guys know, if you probably heard this, probably haven't. And it is the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I, like a lot of you, type a 1 in the chat, in the call, wherever you're dialing in from, if you have heard this prayer for years. Yes, because I have heard this prayer for years. And this week, one of the parts that kept standing out to me as I was preparing for this call, and I was just like, okay, we spoke about so many different, we've been talking about so many different things. And in this episode, I wanted to dive into this one-liner because I know that even myself, I've prayed this prayer so many times. I've incorporated so many different parts of it, right? But there's one in specific. There's one in particular that I'm like, I could do a little better with that one. And it's the courage to change the things I can. And if you're taking notes on today's episode, because you know how I always say note takers are history makers, write this down, because if we're being honest, right? Y'all know we always keep it hot over here, honest, open, and transparent. If we're being honest, though, many of us tried to change the things that we really can't control. And I think that it's, whether it's society that we live in, the culture, all of these things, and it forces us to spend so much time trying to change the things that we cannot control, rather than improving the things that it is that we can. Because the reality is, we try to change people, we try to change our past, we try to change timing, we try to change outcomes, we try to change all of these things. Meanwhile, we're neglecting the one thing God has actually given us authority over: ourselves. So I remember, one of my mentors, and you guys have heard me speak about this a while. If it's, controlling the controllables, controlling the things you can control, controlling what you think, controlling what you do, controlling what you say, right? Controlling how you feel. The rest is up to God. However, when I think of, controlling or the things, really the change, because it's courage to change the things that I can. And I myself, I'm like, man, how much time do you actually focus on changing the things that you can? And yes, you're changing them on a day-to-day basis. And somewhere along the line, I've realized that it's a lot of times we're praying for a different life. We're praying for a different breakthrough, a different business, a different opportunity, a different relationship, a different season. But I believe that sometimes God isn't asking you to change the dream. Sometimes he's just asking you to change the strategy. But what if he's also asking you to become the person who can carry out what it is that we've been praying for? Because it's one thing to pray for some things, but then there's another thing that you're like, well, am I actually becoming the person that is not so much worthy? Because we're all worthy, right? We're all deserving, but are you changing the person who can carry out what it is that you've been praying for? So today's message is the courage to change. Stop changing the dream and start changing the strategy. So I'm going to give you a few tools. You guys know I love giving y'all some takeaways, some resources, because I always not only want you to apply it, but I want you to be able to, if you got to teach this one day, if you're having a conversation, and whether it's a peer or parent or child or whoever your community, just one conversation at a time. One conversation at a time. So let's get into it. Number one, changing your attitude. Right? It's like the one nobody wants to hear. Life doesn't always go according to plan. People disappoint us, and I'm people, right? So we're not supposed to put our trust in people. Opportunities sometimes fall through. Prayers aren't always answered the way we expected. I know a little bit about that all too well. How about you? I think you do too. But here's one thing you can always have control over: your attitude. You may not control what happens to you, but you always control how you respond to it. And I'll tell you so many different things that I can talk about. But one of them that came into perspective was when I first embarked upon entrepreneurship over 12 years ago. I remember my friends telling me like, oh, this amazing success story and that amazing success story. And remember they were doing like a new member fast start training with me. So I got the basics done, and I'm like, all right, cool. It's like, well, your attitude determines your altitude. And I looked at him like, am I in grade school? Because I'm pretty much about to be done with my MBA here. But, again, my ego was not my amigo, right? Just me being fully transparent with you guys. And I remember him saying, like, your attitude determines your altitude. The attitude comes before the paycheck and all these things. And I'm like, all this like motivational guru things. Like, I was like, that sounds good, but I'm here to make the money. Like, that's all I care about. Like, that's what I'm here to do. Right? Like, all of that is, I love it. Kumbaya stuff. I'm here for it, but I'm here to change my life. And what's going to change my life right now is just me making more money. And that was my mindset, right? That was my one track mindset in my 20s. And I remember feeling this way. And I was like, well, what, why is attitude so important? Why was mindset so important? Well, you don't know what you don't know. And what's worse is that you think you know. And there's so many times that I know that I needed to have a better attitude, because mindset is one thing, but your attitude is your feeling. It's your energy. It's how you're going to approach whatever it is that's happening. And there's been so many times when that one phrase of your attitude will determine your altitude, completely change it. Not only when I was in corporate America and banking, but in business, even in your healing, even in the journey, even when I swore God was going to heal my mom here on earth, but he chose to heal her in heaven. If I would have not had an attitude of gratitude, if I would have not had an attitude of positivity, if I would have not had an attitude to say, hey, you know what? I know God's got it under control. Yes, your attitude sometimes it's shaped by your faith, by your BS. And it's not the BS you're thinking about, but I'm talking about your belief systems. So if we know certain things is what is shaping us and shaping our behavior and shaping the way that we go about life, when was the last time you said, you know what, I'm going to take the courage to just change my attitude? Because if I can change my attitude and I can shift it to one of gratitude, and I can shift it to one of positivity, and I can shift it to one of excitement, because 90% of life is not what happens to you. It's how we respond to it. 10% is what happens to us. So if we hold on to the notion that the quality of our life is determined only by what happens to you, no, it's determined by how you choose to respond by what it is that happens to you. So, number one, change your attitude. Number two, change your mindset. You've heard me oftentimes, in case unless you're brand new here, right? Your mindset is where your mind sits. If something does not allow you to grow mentally, spiritually, financially, emotionally, do not let it sit there. Do not let it grow there, right? It is the most expensive piece of real estate. Sometimes the biggest obstacle is not what's going on around us. It's not what's happening in our bank accounts. It's not all of the things that we think. It's what's happening in between our ears. It's what's happening right here. And when we think of something and we're like, man, that's it. That's the Holy Grail. And I always challenge people because, I was just having a conversation with somebody the other day. And it's not to say people are not entitled to their feelings and your emotions and all of these things, because trust me, I am a person that's very in tune with my emotions. However, I have enough awareness to know that even when you feel a way about something, I love the Byron Katie method that is going to tell me, is this true? 4 questions I always ask. Is it absolutely true? Because sometimes we could think like, oh, this person looked this type of way. It got to be because of this. Is it true? Well, is it absolutely true? Who are you when you think this is true? And who would you be without that thought? Why? Because again, our mindset is where our mind sits. And so many times people are focusing, and I'm people, on things that do not serve you, worrying yourself about things that you cannot control, that you cannot change, rather than saying, you know what? I'm going to control the controllables. And one of the things is my mindset. It's what am I feeding myself? What am I focusing on? It's, I know one of my favorite Bible verses, and y'all hear me talk about this all the time. In Romans 12:2, it tells us, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Paul does not say it's in the Romans like, oh, let me transform you by changing your circumstances, or let me change the situation and let me make it more favorable to you. No. He's saying, listen, we need to renew your mind, because you need to hold that thought captive and switch it, because I need you to know that my ways are higher than your, you gotta be renewing your mind. Do not conform to the pattern of this world. And a lot of times it's not the world, it's just you. It's just us, right? One of my mentors once told me, is like, don't give the enemy so much credit. It is true. We give the enemy and all these things so much credit, instead of saying, you know what? I'm gonna take some ownership. I'm gonna take some ownership for what it is that I'm at. I'm gonna take responsibility, because I know at the end of the day, I'm navigating the ship here. So again, when we're talking about your mind, when we're talking about making sure the transformation always begins in your mind first before it happens in your life. As a man or a woman, think if. The biggest obstacle, again, is not around us. It's what's going on in between your ears. So those 4 questions could be very, very changing for you. Is this true? Is it absolutely true? Who am I with this thought? Who am I without it? Because a lot of times it's those thoughts that are driving us insane, those thoughts that are not conducive to your higher self, that are not conducive to the vision that we have for our lives. So why is it that that's what we're focusing on? Well, if that's what you focus on, that's what's going to expand. And I've had time and time again, and I'll tell you, pain is inevitable. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is a choice. And there's times, right? And I'm just, again, being very transparent with you guys. Last month, my uncle passed away, and he had been battling, sickness in and out of hospital. I'm talking about over 16 years. I want to say almost 17 years. Every time I lose a loved one, every time I lose somebody or a close friend of mine or every time we experience loss in any way, shape, or form, it is one of those things that it hits me. And it brings back all of these emotions. It brings back all of these things, all of this. And I had to check my own self, because I'm like, you know what? In my mind, I'm like, God, it's different ways that I could look at this. But one of them is like, God, like, why do you keep taking the people from me that I love so much? Why do you keep taking my family? Why do you keep hurting me? Why do you keep allowing this pain to happen? If I stay stuck, or would have stayed stuck in that mindset, I would have continuously just gone down a downward spiral. But there's times that I have to coach myself. I have to remind myself of my faith, remind myself of the tools, of the resources, of the breathing techniques, of, again, what narrative. Is that the narrative that's going to be the most conducive to your well-being, to your growth, to you building your legacy, to you living life on purpose? No. So which one is it that you're going to choose? The narrative you choose, the mindset that you choose to adopt, it dictates everything. You know, you have to understand that sometimes there's been even situations in life where I'm looking at people and I'm like, oh, you know, this person made this choice, and maybe sometimes that's even me. It's not. Sometimes your mind will fool you, because your brains are supposed to be protecting you, and you'll tell you, oh, that person did that because they're doing something towards you. No, that person did that because they just wanted to do whatever they wanted to do. It didn't have nothing to do with the other person. It didn't have anything to do with you. But we let our minds just fool us time and time again. Let it go. Not only do we need to change our attitudes, but changing our mindset. Your mindset is where your mind sits. And I will tell you, when you renew your mind, because when you're talking about, when your thinking changes, your decision changes, your confidence changes, your actions change, your future changes. Your mindset, changing your habits. I always gotta laugh at this, right? Because y'all know I'm big on my fitness stuff. I haven't seen my trainer all week. I've been going crazy with my travels, right? But I've been in my gym, getting my cardio, hitting my weights, doing my things, even doing calisthenics in my house. Why? Because I got to stay active. I know I incorporated different habits into my well-being. Even when I am talking to people all day long, I tell them, listen, we all want a different life, but very, very few people are willing to create different routines. You master the mundane, magic happens. When I tell people you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. System stands for saving yourself some time, energy, and money. When you think about your future, like, what is your future built on? Is it built on what the words of people spoke? Is it built on money? Is it built on success? Is it built on all of these things? Don't get me wrong, all of these things contribute to it. But when you're talking about you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems that you have in place. Your future is not built by what you do one time. It is built by what we do repeatedly, day in and day out, every single day. Success, it is not an event. It is a habit. Constant, never-ending improvements. So I love hiring people that be like, oh, you know, I want this type of business, and I want this type of life, and I want to be successful, and I want to be free ultimately. And I'm like, great. Let me see your calendar. They're like, why? Well, if you show me what your calendar looks like, I could tell you how serious you are about your goals. I could tell you how serious you are about your dreams. I can tell you how serious you are about your legacy. I could tell you how serious you are about accomplishing the things that you said that you were going to do. Because when we think about it, we're like, man, I have these dreams, I have these goals, I have these aspirations, I have this calling over my life. Sometimes we let the circumstances get in the way of the calling. Sometimes we let the confusion get in the way of the calling. Sometimes we just let life get in the way of life. And when we're talking about the courage to change the things that I can, it's to act even when, take action even when you're scared. It's to take action even when you don't feel it. It's to take action even when it doesn't feel good. The habits, man, the habits aren't easy, but I'm going to tell you it's worth it. I'm going to tell you it's worth it. So many people always are like, oh man, Pam, I love how you're just always so positive and you always keep it going. And I'm like, you have no idea the times that I've cried every morning. You have no idea the nights that I've cried myself to sleep. You don't see the work that takes place behind the scenes. When my mom transitioned to heaven 5 years ago, I did not think I was going to survive that season. And my friends and my family that know me, that know Pam, no. Beyond my mom, my best friend, my business partner, my travel buddy, my everything, right? So what helped in that season, I will tell you, I always tell people, is God, therapy, community, but investing in myself, investing in things that nobody can take away from you, like your character. One of those things was, I got to build better habits. So my journaling, I do a thing called SOAP journaling, which is a scripture, an observation, an application, and a prayer. Shout out to Pastor Rich Wilkerson, Senior and Junior in Miami, taught me this years ago. Well, sometimes if I don't do my SOAP journaling, I'll do gratitude journaling, where I'm just talking about the things that I'm grateful. I get some type of journaling done every morning. That's part of my habits. I stopped doing that, right? I would do it like once a week, if that, because I was taking care of my mom, was just a lot. Well, I needed to get my habits back because I was going to go crazy if I didn't. I needed to find joy, right? I needed to release all of the emotions that I was going through. So I started journaling again as one of my habits. Prayer and meditation and reading my Bible became a non-negotiable habit in my life. Working out became a non-negotiable habit in my life. Even if I am not in a gym, and there's days that I'm like, oh, I'm not going to the gym, I'm still going to go walk. I'm still going to go move my body. I'm still going to go do some push-ups, some squats, some lunges. I'm going to do something to stay active. You have to build better habits. And the moment that I started building these habits, the habits were controlling me instead of my emotions. Instead of when I got up in the morning and I am hurting and I don't want to get up and all I want to do is stay in bed and cry, I was like, nope, I got to get up because my trainer is going to charge me regardless. One thing about BP, he loves you, but he's going to get his money. And I was like, nope, that's not necessarily what I want to do right now. So I knew that I needed to change my habits. Again, success is not an event. It's what you do day in and day out, over and over and over again. Sometimes it's necessary to change your strategy. So change your attitude, change your mindset, change your habits, change your strategy. Whenever I'm working with businesses, with entrepreneurs, with anybody, you have any goal in mind, I always say, like, what is the strategy? Because that might be the most important part of today's conversation. I believe too many people quit too soon. Not because the dream wasn't from God, not because you didn't know that you had the capacity to do it, not because you didn't know he was going to enlarge in your territory, not because you didn't know that he already authorized your victory, but because one strategy didn't work. One strategy, one business idea failed, or one business partner that you thought was going to go all the way with you just gave up too soon, or something, an idea, a relationship ended. I'm going to tell you listen very, very carefully to me. Do not confuse a failed strategy with a failed calling. Do not confuse a failed strategy with a failed calling. Because a lot of times, God may not be asking you to abandon the dream. He simply is just asking you to approach it differently. If plan A didn't work, go to plan B. And there's X amount of more letters in the alphabet for you to choose from. So there's been so many things that I'm like, okay, I got to switch up the strategy. I will tell you, right? When doing our events, man, 3rd year in a row, going on the 4th year, it's been a lot of things when we're getting sponsorships, vendors, all of these things that I was trying and the strategies weren't working. So I said, you know what? Let me go and invest in a course so that I can learn how to do these things better. There's been so many times whenever you set a goal and you make a decision, that right after you make that decision, a decision means you decide, you cut off all other options, you cut off from. Well, as soon as you make a decision, you got to follow through with some type of action, right? You got to take a step or two to get towards that goal. So when you're doing this and then you're trying something or doing your best at a strategy, and if it doesn't work, then you say, okay, this is working, this is not working. Let me switch up the strategy and keep going. But you already made the decision. You don't just quit on the goal. You switch up the strategy. And that is what works. When we're talking about reaching goals, it's never you give up on the goal. You don't give up on the dream. You may pivot on the plan. You may pivot on the strategy, but that doesn't mean that we're giving up on the goal. We don't give up on the dream. May change the way we go about it. Hope you guys are getting value from this. If you are, type a V in the chats. Love it, love it, love it. 5, change your circle. Oh, community matters. Man, iron does truly sharpen iron. I remember my mom used to always say, dime con quien anda y te diré quién eres. English, it means, translation, tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you where you're going. Who you spend time with matters. Your environment influences your experiences. Your conversations influences your expectations. Your circle, it's either stretching your thinking or it's shrinking your potential. A rising tide raises all ships. So when you talk about, man, you see that person winning and winning and winning and winning and winning. Winning is a habit, but it is contagious. So you want to be around the people that are winning. That's who you want to be around, because that energy is contagious. That attitude is contagious. The habits are contagious. The community matters. You got to be around people that stretch you. You got to be around people. And I am strong, and I believe this without any doubt, because I've seen it just happen in my life in the last 5 years. The next level of your life requires a new level of relationships. The next level of your life requires a new level of relationships, not because you're better than anyone, but because growth requires environments where growth is possible. Sometimes you're not growing, not because you don't have the capacity or the brilliance or the calling or the gifts or heaven backing you to get it done. It's because the environment you're in is not conducive to the growth that it is that you're seeking. So, yes, change your friends. Number 6, changing your perspective. And let me go back to that really quick, because I think that it's important for people to understand and really hear me out when I say things like this, because sometimes people are like, oh, she's telling me is like, no new friends, no. Like, that's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, yes, you should have new friends. However, it is important for you to know that sometimes people come in your life for a season. Sometimes people come in your life for a reason. There was a lot of people that our conversations were no longer in alignment. You couldn't relate to me having to pay payroll if you've never had an employee to pay payroll to. You can't relate to me having to deal with organization if you've never had. You can't relate to me having to deal with clients if you've never had to deal with it. You can't relate with me having to deal with stuff with media if you've never had to deal with it. And it's nothing wrong with that. However, I also understand that you cannot teach from a place that you've never reached. So because I also know that I am on assignment and I have to continuously surround myself with people that are stretching me, because I thought I had problems. And so one of my friends is figuring out how they're going to cover payroll for $50,000 in one day. And I'm like, levels. There's levels to it. And that's why those environments matter. That's why it's important to change your circle, change the people that you're spending time with. And a lot of times, I'm going to tell you, sometimes it's not that you guys are all going to be positive 1,000,000%. However, sometimes it's also you knowing that, man, today I might be feeling this type of way, but tomorrow I may be better. When we talk about persist, when we talk about making sure that you are relentless, that you are persisting and persevering, because character is produced in perseverance, the people around you are going to champion that. The people around you. And if you're the person that's like, well, Pam, you know what? I don't have people like that around me. So get out and go in front of new people. Y'all know that just struck a nerve for me, right? Y'all could tell a little bit. I can't stand when I hear somebody tell me that. They're like, oh, you know, the reason why my business is not growing is because of this, is because of the people. The reason why my life is not getting better is because of this, is because of that. Take ownership. You change your friends or change your friends. So if that circle is more like a cage for you because it's not allowing you to spread your wings, then it's time for you to say, hey, let me go change my circle. Go to networking events. Go get outside. Go join Facebook groups in common interests. Go create your own group. Go on an app called Meetup. Go on an app called Posh VIP. Go on Facebook Marketplace. Go search in your area for hashtags in your cities, events going on. There's so many things that you could do. And if you happen to be in the Tampa Bay or Central Florida area, hit your girl up, right? And if you're all over the world, hit me up, because we also host retreats all over the world, not just locally and online. So very important. Number 6, change your perspective. Man, perspective matters, because perspective is reality, right? And some people are like, well, isn't kind of mindset and perspective the same thing? Well, your mindset is where your mind sits, but your perspective is reality. And sometimes what looks like rejection or redirection is actually just God's protection. What seems like a delay is actually preparation. And the same situation can look completely different depending on how you choose to see it. One of my favorites I always say is that there's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. Ecclesiastes 3, like every season has a purpose. It's important to not rush the process. It's important to not despise the waiting, because the waiting season is not a wasted season. And one day you look back and realize that the season you wanted to escape was actually preparing you for the season you've been praying for. Sometimes the season that you're trying to escape, you realize that it was actually preparing you for the season that you've been praying for. There were so many times, and I had to change my perspective, because as much as my mindset and my habits and my circle and all these things were changing, I was just at a point that I'm like, I was like, why is this happening to me? And I had to change it, because it was not happening to me, but it was happening for me. I understood that there was power being attached to that pain. I understood that there was purpose being attached to that pain. I understood that, in fact, what was happening to me was not happening for me, but was happening for me as well, so that I can continue to be an even more powerful vessel to further his kingdom. Because it's the testimony. But the testimony does not come without the test, without the trials, without the tribulations. So when you think of these things, and you may be despising certain situations that you're in, and you're just like, man, this season just feels heavy, and it's a lot. I get it, but keep going, because it's preparing you for the season that you're praying for. There's been, I'll tell you, there was even just a serendipitous moment, right, that I just had on my way to New York City last week. And I was like, it was just so one of those moments. I'm having a conversation with a young lady. I'm not going to say her name. She was absolutely incredible. We meet, talking, happened to be on the same flight, happened to have the same layover. And she was just a vibe, right? We were just talking. And, if you know me, you know that there's no such thing as strangers to me, just friends that I haven't met, right? I could talk to anybody. I'll walk away knowing their whole life story. That's just me, right? So I'm talking to this girl, and she's telling me, she's like, yeah, I've just been struggling. I lost somebody recently, and I don't know how it came up in conversation, but I started talking about my mom, and I was just like, yeah, that date, it just never changed. It would never be the same. Well, it just so happens that she had just lost her godmom on the same exact day that my mom had transitioned to heaven. You can't make stuff like that up. And she was waiting for a sign from her godmom. And I knew for a fact that God had just set me there on assignment to let her know, like, listen, it gets better. You want her to sound like she's good. And you don't have to believe in the things that I believe in. But I know that the way God works, he's so intentional. And my mom used to always say, there's no such thing as coincidences. There's God incidences. Because God is too intentional to be coincidental, right? No son coincidencias, son Dios idencias. And if you know Benny, that's what she would say. So I'm going to say that too. But I've lived it and I believe it. Long story short, this girl, we clicked, but I was able to just bring her joy. And I was able to bring her peace. Even if it was for a moment. Even if later on she was just like, oh, that was just something crazy. Even if it was just for that moment. But had I never endured or went through my process or gone through the things, like, I would have never been able to share a testimony with someone that is not on the other side of it yet. Think about how many things in your life or in your lifetime you've probably embarked upon, and you've gone through this, and you're just like, man, that is not what I signed up for, right? However, you understand that it's not about you, but it's about you being able to help someone else. Last but certainly not least, don't change. And you're like, wait, Pam, we're just talking about the courage to change. As much as we've talked about change today, there are some things that I believe we should never change. You should not change your values. You should not change your integrity. You should not change your faith. You should not change your purpose. You should not change your character. Don't change your calling. Don't change your dream. Don't change the vision. Those things need to remain consistent. What changes is our attitudes. What changes is our mindset, our habits, our strategy, our perspective, and our willingness to grow. When we're talking about forgetting what is behind and straining towards what is ahead, I press on toward the goal. When we're talking about in that season, Paul was not talking about, he did not quit because the road was not going to be hard. He just adjusted. You got to keep moving. You got to pivot. You have to know that you have to have courage to change the things that you can. Stay focused on the calling. That's our challenge as well. Maybe today you have been the person that's been asking God to change your circumstances. Maybe you've been asking God to change your response. Maybe you've been asking him for a different opportunity. Maybe you've been wanting to become a different leader, a better mother, a better father, a better sister, a better auntie, a better uncle, a better godparent, better instructor. I don't know. Maybe you've been asking him to open up another door, but maybe he's asking you to prepare yourself for one thing that he's already has in front of you. Don't throw away any God-given dream because one strategy didn't work. Do not let one disappointment convince you that your purpose has expired, because it has not. It is just getting started. Have the courage to change the things that you can. Your attitude, your mindset, your habits, your strategy, your perspective. And trust God with the things that you can. Because your breakthrough is not waiting on a different dream. It's waiting on a different version of you. Blessings on blessings. Much love to you guys. Don't change the dream. Don't change the calling. Don't throw in the towel. Change what needs changing and keep moving toward the life God has called you to live. God bless you guys. As always, it is an honor, pleasure, and privilege to serve you. If you have not gotten your third quarter reset, make sure you DM me the word coach. Let's get your strategies changing. Let's change up the strategy. Let's change up the mindset, the attitude, the perspective. As always, it is a pleasure, honor, and pleasure to serve you. I'll see you guys next week. Make sure you are streaming to Unplugged with Pam across all social media platforms: Buzzsprout, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube, IG, TikTok, you name it. I'll see you guys soon. Blessings on blessings. Let's get it.